The presidential election, for better or worse, I would say for better, is finally behind us.
Look what happened. Is this crazy?
So no matter where you land politically, I think we can all ask ourselves the question, what are the implications of this next presidency as we head into 2025 here in the Houston, Texas housing market? Donald J. Trump will be the 47th president of the United States. And having been a real estate broker here in Houston, Texas during both a Trump presidency and a Biden presidency, I'm going to tell you today what I expect will happen with Trump back in office here in the Houston, Texas housing market. And before we go any further, I want to make it super clear, this isn't just a biased opinion. Even though I have my own political views, I really want to come at this as a real estate broker, talking specifically about what I have seen in both administrations. And I will tell you this, I have had a successful real estate business under both presidencies. And so at the end of the day, both presidencies are going to have an impact on the housing market, but it's important to understand what those impacts are and what we can expect as we head into 2025. Now, before we go to my prediction, I think it's important to actually look back at history to see how the housing market performed under both presidencies. I remember going back to a Trump presidency before COVID, we had low inflation, we had exceptionally low, in fact, historically low interest rates, and housing prices here in the Houston area were actually quite affordable. It was a great time to buy, and there were a lot of people relocating to the Houston area. We had a stable economy, and fuel prices were low as well. And as you might know, maybe you don't know if you're not from Houston, the housing market is very directly tied to how well the oil and gas companies are doing. Now, as Houston's grown, we're not as tied to the
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
The housing market isn't as directly tied to the oil and gas energy sector as it once was, which I actually think is a good thing. Houston is a very diverse city now, and it does have plenty of other industries that don't have to do with oil and gas. However, it is absolutely abundantly clear that when we have a president in office that wants to deregulate and allow for more drilling,
we have more liquid gold than any country in the world,
and more job creation in the oil and gas sector, that is a good thing for the job market here in Houston, which translates to being a good thing for the housing market here in Houston. There are a lot of implications rolled up in the policies that Trump plans to enact in his second presidency. So let's start with job creation. What's going to happen as regulations lighten up? And as he would say, drill, baby, drill, what is actually going to happen here in Houston? Well, we've actually seen it before. We saw it 4, 5, 6 years ago as regulations loosened up. All of the oil and gas companies were drilling. The cost of fuel came down, which actually had a direct impact on everything. The cost of groceries, because if you really think about it, and a lot of people I talk to don't, everything that you're consuming had to be transported. And how was it transported? It was transported using fuels, and there's a cost associated with that. So when you have a combination of deregulating and increasing the job opportunities for people here in the Houston area in these oil and gas jobs, you get a lot of compounding factors. You get people relocating from out of state that are actually looking to move to Houston to take these jobs, which means they have to purchase a home. You have people locally that already live here that have these jobs that are getting new jobs back that maybe they lost, so unemployment goes down. Now these people are even getting pay raises because we are producing oil again and natural gas, and therefore these companies have more revenue to pay their employees. You're also going to have lower fuel costs, so more people are going to keep more money in their pockets. And these are all just the implications stemming from deregulating or loosening up regulations specifically around oil and gas. Then there are also going to be the tax implications that come from a Trump administration. Now, while we don't have a perfectly clear crystal image of exactly what the tax benefits are going to be under a Trump administration, I think it's safe to assume that there will definitively be a plan in place to cut taxes. And when taxes are cut, what does that mean for the people? It means that you get to keep more of your hard-earned money. That's good for the economy, and it's ultimately good for you, and it's definitely good for me. And with more job creation here in the United States, it's actually going to help out inflation. By paying less in taxes, your money is going to go a little bit further. And before we go any further and I tell you exactly what else I see here in the housing market happening in 2025, I do just need to tell you who I am. I'm Kyler Ferris. I'm a real estate broker here in Houston, and we make these videos just for you guys to inform you on what is actually taking place here in Houston, Texas. We've got videos on our channel of every single suburb, every single neighborhood you could possibly think of here in Houston, Texas, and we help hundreds of people per month think about relocating here to the Houston area. So if you're one of them and you've got any questions, don't be shy. Give us a call, shoot us a text, send us a quick email, or scan this QR code. It will connect you with a member of our team. We'll hop on a call, we'll answer any questions that you have, and hopefully we can help you make a smooth move right here to Houston, Texas. Now, I don't think we know enough now to run down the rabbit hole of exactly what the tariffs plan looks like for a Trump administration. However, I do think that it is safe to assume that over the long term, maybe not in the short term, if the United States does start to impose tariffs, there might be a temporary additional cost to the United States consumer for purchasing these goods, because you are going to have tariffs on imported goods. However, it is going to drive that US consumer to actually look for US made goods. And what is that going to do? That's going to keep money in our economy instead of sending it overseas, which is going to help fight inflation. Now, to keep things simple, we can all agree that supply and demand is a real thing. And even though there is a tremendous amount of growth going on here in the Houston, Texas housing market, with home builders really building quite a lot here in the suburbs, with a larger influx of people moving here, which we've already been seeing over the past couple of years, I think we can expect that to continue to grow, especially as there's more job creation here in the Houston area. And with that growth means prices are going to begin to trend upward. They've been pretty flat for about a year and a half. Here in Houston, everything was going absolutely haywire, and we saw it really peak and crest right around August of 2022. And then for the next 6 months, we had a pretty difficult time here in the Houston housing market until the expectations of what sellers thought they were going to get for their home and what buyers were willing to pay for their home actually met back up again. And we've really had about a year to a year and a half of a pretty stable housing market here. It hasn't been a roller coaster. It's been a pretty equilibrium market, not necessarily a buyer's market and not necessarily a seller's market. And a lot of that was driven by interest rates. Interest rates went from 4 years ago, actually even 3 years ago, they were as low as in the high 2%. I locked my interest rate on a 30-year fixed loan at 2.65%. And then last year they got as high as over 8%. Now they're somewhere in the sixes. However, after Trump just got announced, he was nominated as the president or elected as the president, Jerome Powell just came out with the Fed and did announce another quarter-point rate cut, which doesn't directly have an effect on mortgage rates. But the second that he announces there's going to be a rate cut, it gets baked into the interest rates and into the mortgage rates that we see our clients getting. So that being said, if interest rates begin to come down and prices begin to go back up and more people are moving here to the Houston area, I think we are going to see that seller's market again. We are going to see a little bit more competition, and we can all agree that we've been holding our breath for this election. Once again, no matter what side you're on, we just wanted to know where are we headed for the next 4 years? And it didn't even seem like it was close. It seems like the country was completely divided, and you had 51% of the country wanting to run this way and 49% wanting to run this way. So now we can at least make educated decisions with the information that we have. We're no longer in limbo. No matter where you land on the subject, Donald Trump's the president, and now we can make decisions based on his policies and his leadership. And so it gives us a pretty clear picture going into 2025 of what we can expect. Now, you're gonna see a lot of year-end deals with new construction homes. This is a seasonal market here in Texas. Traditionally, what we'll see is a little bit of uptick in new construction because a lot of the builders are ending their fiscal years December 31st. And so any homes that are contracted in November that can close by December 31st are going to have those prices slashed. The builders are going to buy down those interest rates and you are going to get your best deal. However, you're not going to have the most options. Then it gets quiet through the holidays for about 2 or 3 weeks. And then January 15th, the market here starts to pick up again. It happens every single year. It's crickets, and then a lot of listings go live. After the holidays, people prep them and they go live mid-January, and you start to get to see your first buyers as you're headed into spring. Then it's consistent. You get a little bit of lull during spring break, and then the week after spring break, it's like everything goes bananas here in Houston. And I can tell you this much, if interest rates come down a little bit more and there's more jobs going on here and the cost of living starts to come down and there's more money in the American taxpayers' pockets because taxes are being lowered, we are going to see a boom here in the Houston housing market. And if you own real estate, that's great because you're going to be able to capitalize on that appreciation. And if you are a buyer, it is not a bad thing that you're going to be buying a home that will be appreciating at lower interest rates. And so I view these all as positive. And once again, having sold through both administrations, I can tell you they were actually both pretty fun times to be in real estate. Now, the past 2 years, real estate agents and real estate brokers that don't have a steady stream of out-of-state buyers, they were hurting. The local buyer was not okay with where prices were with these 7-8% interest rates, and they've all been sitting on the sidelines. They've been pent up, just saying, hey, when's it going to get better? When's it going to get better? While all of these out-of-state buyers saw the prices here in Texas and they said, well, that is still significantly cheaper, safer, better schools, cleaner environment, no state income tax. I can get a brand new construction home for half of what I would have paid for in their current state. And so they have been moving here. And so really, I think what's going to make the biggest impact on the housing market here is if that local buyer gets back in the game and starts home shopping again. And really the one thing holding all of that from happening are going to be these interest rates. And so if we do see those come down at all throughout 2025, I think we have a lot of the workings of a really, really good, fun, fast-paced housing market as we go into 2025 right here in Houston, Texas. Now, this is my prediction based on everything I know from selling real estate here in the Houston market during both presidencies and based on the information I have on Trump's plans and his policies. However, I don't have a crystal ball. I would love to hear from you down in the comments. What do you see happening here in Houston, Texas in 2025? Let's have a healthy conversation down there. Let's consider all of the different factors and ultimately only time will tell. But I do have to toot my own horn just a little bit. I've put out these videos in the past and I am pretty good at predicting what actually happens here in Houston, Texas. We sell hundreds of homes per year here in Houston, so we very much have our finger on the pulse of why people are moving here, and we get the inside stories. We get those true takes from people just like you sharing their hearts with us. We're walking them through a months-long process of why they're actually selling their home, packing their bags, and choosing to make Houston, Texas their new home for the foreseeable future. And so we make these predictions based off of a lot of information, a lot more than just a gut feeling or a political belief. So I do think we're going to see a lot of growth here in 2025. If you want to know more about the Houston housing market, we've got tons of videos on our channel, but I definitely recommend you watch this video right here if you're thinking of moving to Houston, Texas. It's going to actually tell you why you shouldn't move to Houston, Texas. And if you can deal with these things, then maybe it is a good fit for you and your family. And as always, if you're thinking about moving here, don't be shy. Just give me a call, shoot us a text, send us a quick email. That way we can help you make a smooth move right here to Houston, Texas.